Talks.
What's happening, everybody? This is the one and only Clown from Slipknot, and I am on Metal Talks with Spotify. In this band, well, in I would imagine in most bands, when you're recording, you know, you have these wonderful things that happen called happy accidents. And in art, you keep these. You do not get rid of these. You don't even question them. You know, everything in life, I think we all search for originalness, and there really is nothing original anymore. It's all somebody else's idea. You can build off it. So if you're lucky enough to get a happy accident, these are things that circumstantially, randomly come about, and you try to incorporate them, and they're my favorite. So Corey, we've been working on this album a long time. I decided to, that's a whole other thing we'll probably get into, but so basically with this plethora of music we were working on, All Out Life ended up being a song that was a little more advanced along. It was, you know, pretty close to being completed. And Corey has this line in there, "We are not your kind." And I can remember hearing that the first time. And I remember getting, we have boards where we write the songs, tentative songs on. So the producer, Greg Fiddleman, asked me, "Hey, get a board going, a tentative board." So I wrote all the songs down on it, but I wrote the album name, "We Are Not Your Kind." And this is probably 8 months before the whole band even got into the studio. And lines like that just cannot be beaten, you know, and you don't try to beat things. There's no good or bad in what we do. It's just different. So we don't look at each other and say, "Oh, that's a bad title," or "it sucks," or there's none of that's allowed. It's just difference. It's preference. You know, it's like not good or bad. It's just I prefer something different. So I can remember being an advocate for that title long before, you know, and I was worried about even writing it down, because when you commit to things too early, you may get bored of them, and they may, you know, I still have to wait until August 9th for the album to come out. So you can imagine like how many times I've already heard the album, and, you know, you see these things over and over and over. But that felt to me as much as Slipknot could ever be for a title, because ever since we showed up in this thought process called rock and roll, it seems like another world always wanted to put us down. And I don't know why that is. It probably is because we're pretty cocky, and we're very sure of ourselves, and we're not going to be misconstrued as anything that is going to give in. You know, this is no compromise in Slipknot. So I think a lot of people, I feel that they would love to see us fail. And you know, we don't fail ever, but we're human. We make mistakes all the time. I mean, things go down, but, you know, maybe there's some jealousy, envy. I don't know. You know, it's other people's lives are mine. But when a title like "We Are Not Your Kind" comes out into reality through words, it's just, I've never had anything that was more pertinent to what we are. You know, I just really feel that title summarizes. I don't believe we're a band anymore. I believe we're a culture. So I really feel like it's like, hey, you know, like Slipknot, then you're not our kind, you know? And, you know, I don't know really where Corey came from with it, and I don't ask, because I don't really want to know. I need that title to mean what it means for me. And I need the fans for it to mean what it means to them. And there should be no explanation, you know? We have a lot of songs written for this album, and half of them didn't even make it. So the real simple formula for this is this. It's real simple in my mind. I try to picture myself as a fan in the world that we live in today, where everyone is all over me about streaming and digital. At one point, I was told that we might not even have a physical product. It could potentially be a reality. Now, we would never entertain that. I put my own money up and make sure I got stuff started. I don't want to be in this business unless I can hold something, you know? So when it came time to start picking things, I asked myself, if I were a fan in a world of streaming and Slipknot has been gone forever and come back with an album with over 20 songs written, would the fans rather have another song take its place on an album, or should I keep All Out Life on it? So we had planned, sometimes business can play into things. We don't really entertain it, but I believe we've made a masterpiece. I believe this album is an absolute masterpiece. Not that any of the other ones weren't, because they really are, but this one's a masterpiece. So you have to take into account track listing, how many, then there's some business, but that doesn't really play too much in it. But I would be mad if the people around me that are in charge of bringing me the business, if they didn't explain it to me, I'd be upset later. So, you know, the label they own, you know, there's all this business I don't think even people realize. So when it came down to it, it was like, here's the deal. We can put All Out Life on the album and not put another song on the album. And the way I look at it is our whole plan was to shock the world and give the world, our fans, something to hold on to until, get it going. And we did it. We did All Out Life. We all got together. We worked hard. We finished it. We got this big plan. We made a video and it worked. And I love the idea that it is its own thing. And I don't feel like bringing it back over and putting it on the album because it would take place of another song. So I think when the album comes out and then you add All Out Life with it, you know, one way or another, the kids are going to have it. They can't bullshit me and say, whatever. They're downloading it. I got the proof. You know, they're going to get the album, they're going to add it to it, and they're going to have that, you know. So it took me a while to convince, especially Corey. You know, he is very adamant about wanting the kids to have it on a hard copy. And I agree. And I will be honest, I think we've agreed now it'll probably be on an international release. So it will end up on, so when we'll release our album, the collection of those records, the way we see it. But, Japan, Europe, some places we do the digipacks where you add more songs. We're going to add All Out Live. So it will make it. But I just felt it was better to, in my opinion, to have the fans understand that song would have taken another one out of their pocket that may have never gotten mixed, may have never made its way, because we're on to bigger and better things now. So I think they're going to be happy, especially when they can get it on a digipack. I was fortunate enough to work with Rick Rubin twice in my career, and I can remember having a very profound conversation with him about double albums, because there's never been a true metal band with a double album. Kiss is Kiss Alive 2. Everything's live. Not a proper metal band has a double album. So this is a bucket list, kind of do. The business makes it almost impossible, especially these days. Everybody wants to prorate their pieces of paper with their formulas, and I just want to give music. But he said in order to have a successful double album, you have to have at least 80 songs. And I thought that was I didn't feel like that was right, but I love him and trust him very much and listen to him. He's a great teacher. And sure enough, we wrote a lot of songs, and we could have put out a double album on this for sure. We definitely could have. But then when you can do that, you kind of have to look at it and you have to ask yourself. I mean, my idea was only to put 9 songs on each. I didn't want to have some big overdone arty album where people get lost in art intro things that are 3 minutes. I want to be very precise. I want to, come in strong. But it's not that anybody couldn't wrap their head around it. It just didn't make sense. And quite literally, we could have. I mean, there is so much music written on this one. It's a masterpiece. So in order to make a masterpiece, you have to kind of whittle it down. And we did. We whittled it down to probably the A plus. And I'm very happy. And in fact, I thought it was going to be a big thing, choosing the songs. I thought we were going to this is going to be tough. And in fact, when everybody gives and takes, as long as you can take, I can give all day long, but sometimes it's hard for me to take when I get something in my head. But ironically enough, like Corey and I, we got right to it. And I tell you, with 2 or 3 revisions in one day, I got goosebumps thinking about it. I was so pleased that in one day we agreed on the track listing, because I had 26, column interludes, segues. So we had over 20, I think we had 22 songs, and we had 26 interludes. And the interludes, some of them were 5-6 minutes. And throughout the recording process, we were constantly whittling them down to their core. So there's only a few of those used, and there's only so many songs. So, I mean, there is so much material that did not make this. That's incredible. But I do believe, like I said, I think we whittled it down like a Van Gogh or a Matisse. I think it's a perfect thing. It's going to blow people away, this album. I don't think they're ready or understand, because it's different. When we were completing Point 5, the Gray chapter, my father-in-law was diagnosed with cancer. And he had went into remission for a little bit. And then we were getting to wrap up our tour. And I was depressed because my wife was depressed and my family was depressed. So I started reevaluating my whole life. And I realized I wanted a change. I want a big, big change. We all do. Everyone in this band wants a change. So what happened is I went to New Zealand and Australia and just told my wife, when you're ready for me to come home, I will. But she wanted me to do what I do. So I was in New Zealand. I got the call. She's like, come home. My dad's going to die. And I got on the plane and I landed in Texas, and he passed away when I was in the air. And everyone at the airport was very surprised for me, but I was like, that's Slipknot. I'm like, of course he did, but luckily I had said goodbye to him before I left. So that got me really thinking. And then what we all kind of decided was, I got together with Jim and I said, hey man, it's been 20 years. Why do we want the label to tell us when to write? Why do we want to be told when to go write? We're artists. We're at the top of our game. Let's go write. Well, I feel like I've made a lot of good friends and a lot of good business decisions. And I think people take me for my word. And I think people take us for our word. So the label was confident. And they're like, sure. So in the time off between Point 5 and when we went into the studio, Jim and I and Jay went into LA 8 times just to get things going, getting the demos ready, it takes a lot of time. We're very fortunate to have a family and a label that would allow us to do it, because, time is money. And plane tickets, Airbnb, hotels, per diems, these the producer, Greg Fiddleman, who we met through Rick Rubin on Subliminal Verses. So Rick Rubin produced that album and Greg Fiddleman was his main man, doing everything. And then we did Point 5, the Gray chapter with Greg Fiddleman, and we did this, We Are Not Your Kind, with Greg Fiddleman. So we're always building with Greg. We take what we've learned with him from the past and we build on it. And it's amazing. So I was home for about 3 months, and our sound man, Shirt, he passed away. And he's been with us for 15 years. And that was devastating. And we knew that this was a much, 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 much different time. So we started taking things very serious. And Corey was out with Stone Sour, and he let us rock it. So one thing that people need to know is that this album was written the whole time we were off. We weren't told by the label, okay, next month will be good. And then we're in the studio for, 4 months and you get what you get. This was a lot of work. And that's how we got 22 songs. That's how we got 26 segue intro things. We had 2 studios. We had the main studio where all the guitars are set up and the drums are set up, and that's where it happens. And then I head up another studio in the studio called the Open Lab with another engineer producer. And I would handle all the weird stuff. And I handle the room that means if you want to, come in and do ballet, you can. It's the Open Lab. You're not going to be made fun of, is what I'm saying. Is like anything you want to try, you try, because that's how you evolve. You can't be scared to try things. So that's really what it was. It was recorded over, let's call 2.5 years, almost 3 years. Many, 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 many different sessions, demos coming in from everybody, going through it. It takes a lot of time to take something you create at home and bring it into the real world of recording and make it understandable for everybody to get on. So this was the most we've ever worked on an album besides our first album, because you have your whole life to make your first album, and then it just kind of happens and you're like, holy shit. And then later, they're like, time to make the second one, time to make the third, and you don't have any time. Well, I put my foot down on this one. And I figured Slipknot, we've done enough right to have enough people trust us. They're like, no problem. And honestly, the label is so happy. I mean, they're ecstatic with what we've done. And I can't say it enough. It's a masterpiece. And to get that, it takes time. It takes a lot of time. We just, we just had a lot of things happen, and we've been doing this so long, and just put my foot down. We changed all of our crew, we're just a whole new family, and we really want to bring it in. It's got nothing to do with everybody that was with us. It has to do with us trying to find each other and literally being happy with the 9 of us being out here, because there's things happening all the time. We're older. I'm going to be 50 in September. Recently we just had to get a new member. And, things happen, it's nobody's fault. Just things happen. Humans are humans. Things happen. I always hate it when things change, and I always feel bad, but people have to be responsible for their own lives. I can't tell people what to do or what I think. They have to make their own decisions. And like I said, we've been doing this a long time now. We're not just a baby band anymore, and we're all getting older. We were old to begin with. I started the band when I was 26, got signed when I was 29, was 30 years old when I was on the road. I'm going to be 50 in September. So, things are tough. And, I think the world has an expectation that a band can stay together. Well, health, mental, spiritual. I mean, these are all things that get alleviated as you go on, and, things change, and, we're not really good with change, but we're really good with picking up the pieces and getting to work. Really ecstatic, with the new member. It's a lot of fun, and, it's just nice that at this stage of the game, when something like this happens, that we can actually get someone who appreciates it and will bring 190%, because, we could easily get down, and I could easily let the press get to me and fans and things, but they don't know all the circumstances, do they? And they're never gonna, because they shouldn't anyway. It's our family business. And there's much love for all the guys who are no longer in Slipknot. Paul Gray's passed away. He's missed every single day, not our choice. But if Slipknot's going to continue, we got to pick up the pieces, and we got to do the best we can for the culture. So that's what we do, So we picked up the pieces recently, and we've done what we've done, and we're moving on, and everyone's really happy, and we're very happy. And sorry things had to change, but not there's no such thing as control for all of us. All of us have to let that go. I can't control people. I can't control their outcomes. I can only get up and do the best I can every day. So that's what I'm doing. This band today is more happier, and it's been in probably, I used to tell people I never had as much fun as when I was in the basement working for a dream. It's never been better than that. It's never been better than being in the basement with my dudes and working towards something we didn't know if it was real or not. And one day I woke up in the dream and I haven't been asleep since. You know what I'm saying? I don't know my old life. It's been gone for so long. And most days it can be a freaking nightmare out here. You know, it can be a nightmare. Isolation, women, drugs, money, spirit, mental, physical. I mean, it can be, we're pirates. So it's pirate life for me, or go home and be a family man. So right now it's all about preserving who is left and what the dream is. And we've never been so happy. I mean, people that usually are miserable are smiling, you know, and like I said, we had to replace almost all of our family, and it wasn't personal. It's just that there has to be a detached there. It's got to be about the band now. You know, I mean, we got to get back to us. I can't spend time out here worrying about friends who are techs, or, you know, I can't, I got to worry about me. I'm getting older. You know, I mean, there's a lot going on in life. You know, there's a lot of people that want to set up drums, you know, and so the band's in a great place, happier than I've seen us in a long, long, long time. It wasn't until Paul was passed away for maybe 4 years that I realized it was him who recognized the ability of my art. And I realized it was him who embraced it and forced it. I had other plans in my life that I was going to do. You know, I wanted to teach art history, and, you know, I wanted to squat in New York and be a socialite and one day get sponsored and be this artist. You know, that's what I thought. And Paul saw that and loved my art. And he was like, man, together. And I was like, well, you know, I'm like an old punk rocker and all, you know, I grew up in the 90s with a lot of alternative music and stuff and just art, you know, so we just had a plan to make something new, and here it is now, all these years later, this freaking thing called Slipknot. It is the death of me, but it's like every day I'm so blessed to have, I used to get really mad, like, you know, there's so many of us, and, you know, the press wants to know who came up with it, or, you know, and you got to deal with your ego and all this, but I'm selfless now. I'm completely selfless, and I give credit where credit's due. I have no problem, but yeah, I got some issues in my brain, and I let it all out in this, and I'm very thankful, and I'm very lucky. And again, I'm very blessed to have an outlet like this, because I guess I could be in New York squatting and no one would ever see my art or like it, or it would never make as much difference as it is. And I'm around the best people and musicians that I could ever ask for. And together, the 9 of us, we're just this thing that makes me happy. Whether the show goes off right or whether we look good or whatever, I look at the 9 of us and I'm like, I'm just proud to be a part of an artistic expression that just kicks major ass in all ways. I'm always concerned about the fans. You know, I want to make them a part as much as possible. So I really made them a big part of All Out Life. And we got together, and I was working on my treatment for Unsainted, and I wanted to break it down to a single word. Just what is it going to be about? And what it was about was new masks. The new songs coming out. There's a new look. There's a new album. There's new clothes, new guitars, new stage. But what's it all really about? All right, let's really concentrate on the masks right now. So that was my main focus. And trying, you know, just relax a little bit on the performance. You can go online and see the real deal all the time. You know, you get to make a video, it can be sterile. So what I did was I'm really happy that technology has caught up with us. So a lot of the technique and visuals that you see in the video are things that I was trying to accomplish 10 years ago. But computers, and, you know, for someone like me, I'd have to rent a space and try it. You know, I mean, things just weren't caught up to have happen so quickly. So this video was a way for me to get some of my visual techniques out that I've always wanted to, like chromatic separation, layering of just insane proportions. These things are flawlessly done now. I mean, it's like, put that there, done. 10 years ago, computers would shut down. You have to reboot. So focus on the mass, make all the layers have something to have that really have something to do with everything. For instance, I won't give them all away, but when you see my face, when my clown mask comes up, you see like things moving and stuff. Well, there's a house, okay, in my face. And that's the house we got signed at. So that's the house that Ross Robinson and John, his manager, John Reese, and our manager at the time, Sophia John, they all came to my house and they watched us perform in my basement. And then the next day we played at my bar. And then that's when Ross said, I'm doing you guys. So it's also the house my dad passed away in. So it's kind of a tribute to the guy who taught me everything. So, but the way it aesthetically has to look, if you look, I have the house in there in a way that when it stops, there's a fence, not a fence, a railing of something on the deck. There's a couple pieces of wood. So that is on my teeth and it looks like I'm missing a tooth, but it's really it's a little thing of the deck. You know what I mean? So all the layers that I'm using have to match the mask in a way, but they also have to have a meaning. So everyone, when you see everybody and they have things moving in them, all that stuff's important. It's not just footage that I shot and threw into people's stuff. I have a meaning for all of it. It's all from Iowa. It's all from Des Moines and the state of Iowa, cornfields, all things that are pertinent to us, but without making it too complex as well. So it's just a real fresh way. I wanted the video to be very clean. I wanted people to get instead of real quick edits, want them to have a little longer, a little more time to analyze things, but I don't want to give it all away. I don't want to just blatantly put our mask up like, hey, it's got to be Slipknot. So the idea was to really concentrate on the mask and really bring in techniques that I've been dying to conquer, so I can move on. Now I don't have to, I've been waiting forever to get, stuff layered just perfectly, so it's really what it was. And I'm really excited that we're going to make a lot of videos on this album. And I've been working hard on the time off to really get there, like really go deep. And I just see so many people online now, the shock factor. I mean, when we were coming up, I had to answer to practices and standards and practices, like if I wanted to put a gun in the video, they'd be like, no fucking way. That'd be out. No chance of that. Don't even put it in the treatment. If I filmed it and put it in, they'd be like, that edits out. Now you can go online and it's a free for all, but just because it's a free for all, it doesn't mean you have to out dark everyone. I get a little disgusted when everybody wants to push the envelope so far because they can. There's no art in that. There's no art in like, hey, just because I can. I've been working hard my whole career to explain a band like Slipknot visually under standards and practices for the better health of the people out there, and now no one's got any concern. Just throw it out. Critical Darling, amazing song. One of my favorite, probably one of my favorite for a while. Corey Taylor is my favorite singer on earth. And one of the reasons why is he can take his own life. I'm fortunate enough to know him in his own life. And, I may know his happinesses and his sadnesses. I know these things. But his incredible gift is to be able to make his words for all of us. And that particular song, I feel like I could pretty much nail what the subject is about, but he's so good at allowing all of us to have it for ourselves. It makes that song really special. And when he's like, hey, drama, I mean, that's just that stuff, like his voice. And he just went so far and took so many chances on this album. And when I say chances, I don't really mean chances. Corey doesn't care. He goes for it. If it feels right, he's going to go for it. He's not scared. But I love that song because it's got some really different vocal techniques that you would not have heard on previous things. And this is good for Slipknot. Evolution is what we're about. We don't want to repeat ourselves ever. We want to move forward. In the end of the day, we're opening up our set tonight with, songs from our second album, so even if you don't appreciate the new album, there's still 5 other albums full of stuff that we are always going to play that we love, that we are. But you have to understand that there's a new generation of Slipknot kids. So you take something like Critical Darling, and some 18-year-old, might be getting crap from a fan from 1999, but okay, they had Wait and Bleed. These kids get Critical Darling. It's the same thing. You know what I mean? You don't have to be a fan and make fun of people today that love what today is. I mean, I'm not 26 anymore. I'm going to be 50. I'm different. Things are different. I'm not going to repeat myself. But I love these ideas of new songs for new generations. Critical Darling will be the Wait and Bleed for the maggots today who are 14 years old going into high school. And then maybe they never heard Slipknot and they hear this new album, and then an old maggot can come up and be like, did you hear Wait and Bleed? I mean, it's what music's about. So that was one of they're all my favorite, but that one stuck with me for a long time. It's amazing. Critical Darling is, man, it was a very powerful song. Orphan was the song that was most completed first because it's old school and they come to us like this. It's burnt into us. We write those kinds of songs all day, every day. But that one's high caliber. And I remember Corey, I remember when so I was writing the music with Jim and we're jamming with Jay, and, a year went by or whatever. And finally Corey was coming in to do a couple scratch, whatever. And I remember talking to him and he's like, I got the name for the first song. And he's like, you ready? And I was like, what? He's like, Orphan. And I was like, I remember telling our producer, I was like, uh-oh. I'm like, because Corey's had a rough life, and I know him very well. And when he drops words, he means words. And I would never ask him to explain exactly what Orphan is all the way. I don't need him to. I need it to be what it means to me. But when one of my best friends and my favorite singer says the name of this song is going to be called Orphan, I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be heavy duty. So, we don't contemplate what we're doing. We just do, we just write, and then it all comes out on a table, and what we as a group feel is best happens. They could have all been Orphans. They could have all been Critical Darlings. We just do the best we can. But, that is, it's a big song, and we got plans for that song too. I can't really talk about it now, but we're partnering up with something pretty cool, and that song will be the main influence with it. And there's going to be a really big storyline on it, and there will be an orphan in the world that will represent that. And it's in the making right now, but we got some really, really, really big plans to incorporate that song, so it can be, I'm always sure the fans are going to love something like that, What's up again, everybody? It's me. I've been talking. It's the Clown from Slipknot. You've been listening to Metal Talks with Spotify. We're out on tour probably next 3 years, Europe, the proper world. Come check us out. And I just want to say on behalf of all of us, how much we love all of our fans. Thank you for sticking with us. You're not going to be disappointed with this new album. It's just another chapter of our lives. It's just another chapter of the book of Slipknot. And in no ways is the book finished yet. So we love you all. Take care of yourself. Stay above water. And hail, hail, hail the knot.